What's up, everybody? Welcome to Keeping It 9450, Codename WB. Daniel Artest, your host. Got k.dot with me today. And obviously, for y'all watching this on YouTube or wherever you're consuming this video, we got Mark Schindler in the building, man. Mark, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I can't complain. It's been a solid day so far. It's been a busy week. Got a lot to do the rest of this week and coming weekend, but it's good, man. I can't complain. How's everything on your end?
Everything's on my end. It's great, man. You know, sunny South Carolina. It's going to be 70 degrees today, so I'm good. Yeah, I got the hoodie on, but I had to represent the Artest Foundation today. And I got to represent Cleveland, you being native Ohioan. Shout out to the Midwest. I'm a 15-year veteran of living in the Midwest. We like brothers in different states right now, man. k.dot, what's up with you, brother?
Hey, yo, what up? What it is? What's popping? Listen, I am excited to have Mark on the show. I got a bone to pick with Mark right quick.
Oh, no. We're starting off hot.
With violence. I am starting with violence. Let's talk about these food takes, my brother. Let's talk about these food takes. What are we doing here? What is your beef with?
I don't mind beef, but yeah, no, I guess it depends on what it is. I went at queso yesterday. Some people were upset about that. I just think it's more about, hey, I'm biased, I'm lactose intolerant. But so, you know, that has its own deficiencies. But guac and salsa is just so much better than queso, man. Queso is good. Like, I mean, I don't think that queso is terrible, but like a good salsa or guac is so much better than queso for me.
Nah, they be killing you.
Yeah.
I saw that tweet. I was like, oh, man, come on, Mark.
Yeah.
Queso, you don't like queso?
See, the way I think about it, I'm like sometimes overly nuanced in basketball. I don't like being hot takey at all. With food, just throw it out the window, man. That's how I get my kicks off. I'm just gonna throw anything out, throw it at the wall, see how it goes. That's how I think that's how I keep that compartmentalized for myself.
Yeah,
I think
I think we letting them off the hook too easy. See, I listen to a lot of NBA podcasts, and this guy, shout out to Sam Vecini, one of my favorite shows, Game Theory. He has an issue with Thanksgiving, man. This guy has an issue with Thanksgiving. Tell everybody your issue with Thanksgiving. We have a lot of listeners, so please tell everybody your issues with Thanksgiving, man.
What issue don't I have with Thanksgiving? I think turkey's pretty mid. I don't like turkey very much. The reason we have so many leftovers is because turkey's not very good. I think if turkey was better, we wouldn't have as many leftovers after Thanksgiving. I don't know. I just generally think Thanksgiving is like a little overhyped for me. Like it's cool, and like the family aspect is cool, but the actual food at Thanksgiving, man, could be better. I don't know. Like I need more. Like the first time I ever went down south, I had a really good friend of mine who lives in Alabama, and I went and visited him tail end of high school, and I had collard greens for the first time. That changed my life. So I think that totally changed up my eating palate and how I like things, and introduced me to eating things that are actually like spicy. So to me, Thanksgiving can be a little underwhelming.
I got a confession. I'm not a big fan of the Thanksgiving turkey, but I do like the turkey legs.
Yeah, okay, that's different.
When it's time for us to do the Thanksgiving food, man, we don't do the big turkey. We just get the turkey legs and put it together like that. Certain sides I'm not a fan of. The only sides I really like is the mac and cheese and yams, man. Only when they touch. But you can't mix them together. You got to let everything organically happen, like this podcast that me and k.dot put together to create the magic, man. But yeah, all right, let's tap into it. So tell everybody like your background. Tell everybody who you are and stuff, because I know a lot of people know you, but a lot of people don't really know you because you just came out of nowhere these last couple of months.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, I was not a very good basketball player. Basketball was something that's kind of always in the background of my life. It didn't really come to the forefront until like I was trying to be a professional athlete. I was working on a pro boxing career. I had some pretty catastrophic injuries that ended up, in that not possible, and ended up having me I went from being like, I'm still a very active person now, but I went from being like on a pro athlete schedule to, okay, you're confined to a couch for like basically a year, getting right. And so I went from being like I would watch like TNT games and stuff. I really fell in love with the 2013-14 Indiana Pacers. That was like the first team that I really like that made me fall in love with basketball. But then I think it was 2016, 2017 when I got hurt that I was like, okay, I can't really do anything else. So I'm going to watch a bunch of basketball because that's what was on. And I got League Pass and I just fell in love with it. And it was cool because not to get like overly deep, but sports had never really been fun for me. Sports was always more, you have to do this. It was a way to be out of the house. I liked going to practice because I didn't have to go home. And so for me, basketball was finding a way to actually love a sport. It just was fun for me. I'd always go to the park and stuff and just mess around, have fun, and play pickup, get absolutely dogged. Like I'll never forget one time the biggest mistake I ever made when I was 16 years old. I wore a Paul George jersey to a court. That was the stupidest thing. Trust me, as both you know, wearing a pro player's jersey to a blacktop is the dumbest freaking thing you can do. You learn the hard way when you're a sophomore in high school.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's basically how I got in. And then I ended up, journalism just became a way for me to stay around basketball because I feel like I owe it a lot. And I love the game just for how it really changed up my life and opened up a lot of doors for me.
So and that's funny because that was definitely about to be our first question about the journalism part, because figure out like what was that trigger. So I guess that you just answered it with your sports stuff and with your sports background and stuff. And basketball, like when you say that you was forced to play, I was forced to play too as well, man. Like when everybody's seen Meta blowing up, then it was just like, okay, Daniel, you're a young kid, but you're over 6 foot, so you got to go and do it too and stuff. And I recently disclosed to like my family that I only played because y'all pushed me into it. I didn't want to play. I wanted to I love like infrastructure, building cities and stuff like that. So I'm really big into engineering and everything. So, and then my family was taken aback when I told them, they was like, you're really good. I was like, Dad, big as hell. You trying to say no to him?
Yeah.
Yeah, basketball is crazy. As far as the injuries, like I've been dealing with, as k.dot know, for the last going on a year now. I hurt my back at my old job in March, and it's been dealing with it ever since. The same intense pain and stuff like that. So it does take the fun out of it, trying to be active and everything like that. It really sucks. But I'm glad it happened to me at 39 and 40 instead of it happened to you at a young age. And I know that you're in your 20s still, so I can be like, all right, cool. I guess it's over anyway, so whatever. But yeah, let's get into some more stuff. k.dot, what you got to ask?
So, in addition to that, Mark, as far as your journalism career, like first off, you're one of my biggest influences, right? Especially when it comes to your writing and all of the pieces that you've done. And congratulations, by the way, you just did an excellent piece on Andrea Carter, which was phenomenal. So, if you could, can you tell us a little bit of your influences once you became interested in the journalism, in the writing, in the scouting? Who were some of your biggest influences in order for you to be Mark Schindler as we know today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I first started, I think I really tried to not say that I tried to know everything, but I think I tried to be um a little bit too much like other people. I think I really tried to, I don't know, like I grew up reading like Zach Lowe and all the people from Grantland and ESPN. And so I think I really tried to like tailor myself like that. And then the deeper I got into the game, I realized that's not really me. Like and I think all those people were fantastic, but I was like, if I'm going to make my mark, I think it's by being myself. And so for me, part of what's interesting is like my getting into journalism for me was a humbling experience, because so right when that all is happening for me, when I'm back in school, because I took a couple of years off to get right after injury, and then I go back to school, and I'd originally been working on a medical degree, and that's a whole other story. That was a mistake, but then I get back and I'm still figuring out what I want to do. I knew like I love basketball, and that ended up parlaying into that, but I'd been back in school for probably 4 or 5 months when the pandemic hit. So I had to just do a lot of stuff on my own. You still learn a ton being in class and everything, but everything was, if I wanted to make something happen, it was going to have to be like going out and doing it of my own volition. So then I just forced myself to start writing differently and be different, or not even just be different, but to try different things. Because something that I'd always struggled with growing up was being willing to try different things. I think it was less about being a perfectionist and more about just being like, I would get like really locked up about doing something and not being good at it. And I think to me, journalism was trying to find a way to be willing to try different things and find different ways to communicate things, talk about things, or find different stories and ways to talk about things that maybe I wouldn't have ever anticipated doing before. So I think to me, influences are mainly I guess I would say my influences are more from like the media that I take in. So I love like anime, old cartoons, stuff like that. Like I take a lot of influence from that. I love hip hop and every form, fashion, era. I love R&B too. Like I think I always try and interwork stuff like that. Like even from movies too. Like I think so for me, I try and be, at least the way that I try and approach it, I try and be as little of a journalist as possible and just try and be a person in doing stuff. Because I think a lot of the old journalism stuff is really dying out. At least that's my opinion. That's how it seems to be going. And because I just want to be a person. Like, I think that there's a place to not necessarily put yourself in stories, but I think just like having your own perspective in somebody else's story can be important for really conveying where they're coming from and knowledge and whatnot. And I always have a rambling answer, but that's how I try and approach it. Like, I just want to, I don't want to be like Mark the journalist. I just want to be Mark talking to somebody and have that come across, because I'm just a guy. Yeah, I think that's how I try and be with it.
Yeah, that's like how I approach it too. And speaking of influences, I actually hit up Ari Chambers, and I was like, yeah, she's one of the influences in my new path down this journalism route because of how she gets the story out of everybody and having that regular conversation and stuff, and just not writing a bunch of questions down, which I'm actually trying to get out of. Instead of just writing questions down, just writing different conversation points and stuff like this. This whole thing is new. I just jumped into it feet first and everything like that. So it's pretty cool to have some people that you could look up to, that you see doing their thing and be like, hey, what you do was dope. And it's just like how I look at everything like basketball, and I take a lot of bits and pieces from a lot of people and just add it on to my style. Like you said earlier, I'm not a hot take guy either, and I give that big shout out to my guy Zach Rainey from the Z Show. And like, we just really believe in that you can still have these type of conversations and people still want to be interested in things that's not controversial and stuff. So that's just how I move today. Speaking of, all right, k.dot, since we on that, who's yours? Before we get into the real basketball stuff real quick.
I think that I can combine what you guys have talked about. I think for me, and I spoke with Mark about this a little, I like to be the one that if I'm the reader, I want to be where you are. So storytelling is important to me. And he mentioned hip hop. Slick Rick is one of my all-time favorite artists, and he's been very famous for rapping in storytelling modes, right? He's always been able to give you a visual of what he's rapping about. And a children's story is very important to that, because every time you rap it, you can visualize what's going on. And I think I try to equate that with some of what we do at 265 Media, and for me, working with Next Republic. So I think those are some of my biggest influences. And of course, I've already mentioned to Mark, he's one of my biggest influences. And just other people within our circles, Miles Ehrlich, Owen Pence, Christina Williams, Erika Foster Brasby, B. Terrell, like these people within our era of journalism and how we set the bar and kind of change the ball a little bit on how journalism has been perceived to us growing up. Those are some of my biggest influences. And at the end of the day, when you're talking hoop, you're talking hoop. So, it is what it is from that standpoint. But those are some of my influences.
Yeah, that's what's up. Let's get into the basketball. Let's talk about Mark's podcast, They Got Now, which recently dropped. How you like doing that podcast, man? How you like it? I noticed you've been doing a lot of podcasts, like with The Athletic and everything, but how does it feel just branching out on your own and doing your thing with it?
Yeah, I'm loving it, man. Because it's funny, like feature writing is not something that I ever really anticipated doing or wanted to do. And when I took the W job, that ended up just happening hand in hand. And I've really loved it. And I think part of what made me excited about starting up that podcast was getting the opportunity to tell stories or just get to know people. Because for me, like, as much as I love doing features because I want people to get to know people who are cool or maybe aren't getting highlighted in that way. And I think just doing a podcast in the same way, like I like doing more like in-depth interviews and really getting to know who a person is, what makes them tick, the things that made them who they are. So I think for me, that's been really fun because I love doing that. Like I really enjoy doing like all the analysis side of stuff. Like I love scouting. I really enjoy covering the draft on both sides of the ball, but just getting to know people is like probably my favorite part of basketball. So I think for me, that's what the podcast has been all about. And I'm really excited to keep doing it. I have some exciting stuff in the works and I really like what I've been doing.
Yeah, enjoyed the show. I listened to a lot of the episodes.
Appreciate
my favorite one was the first one you had with Kurt Miller. Y'all got into the FIBA stuff. Y'all got into your backgrounds in Ohio with the school and everything. Like, just tell us like how does reaching out to get your guests and these players, because you also have Veronica Burton, which is one of my favorite young players in the W. I think that like her and Brittany Sykes do remind me of my brother, the way they play defense and how they get after it, how they slide their feet, how they move laterally quick and great hands and strength as well, and not committing that much fouls and stuff. So like when you're reaching out to these guests, what's your game plan going in there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think part of it is like I don't know. I think my game plan is mainly I just want to get to know why. I think a lot of people like knowing what. To me, I like knowing why or how. So like with Veronica, like part of the reason I love watching her game, like her defense is, even as a rookie, her defense was tremendous. Like I think you could see the real makings of a truly great defender, and she obviously had offensive flashes too. But like I wanted to talk to her like, okay, how do you watch film? what things you look for in film made you really start finding yourself as a defender and imprinting yourself in that game, because she was doing that at Northwestern too. And so for me, that's the kind of stuff I want to know, because I think you can pinpoint like what a person's doing and why it stands out. And I think there's an interest in that, and that's stuff that I do too. But again, like I want to get to know, I can see you get this steal here, but what are all the steps that you're taking in the last couple of years that make you capable of doing this? And I think to me, that's part of why I really enjoy it and find it interesting.
So what's your favorite moments of the podcast? If you give us
Ooh.
2 favorite moments, what's your favorite ones?
Favorite moments? That's tough. If I had to rank favorite moments, I think having Kelsey Mitchell on was really fun. I love talking to Kelsey. I'd never talked to her before, and it was just like, it sounds like such a random thing. And part of the reason I've loved the W is it's not that saying that athletes are more accessible sounds wrong, because like I think it's understandable why the NBA can be a little bit more closed off sometimes. There's the profile is a little bit bigger right now. It's just natural with a league that's older. But with the W, like I feel like if you really just present yourself as a genuine person, you're honest and open, like the athletes have been really reciprocal with that. And I just told Kelsey that I was like getting shoulder surgery soon, and she stopped and asked me about it. I was just like so unused to that. And that's less saying like that I think it's bad, or that it's bad for people to not ask you questions about yourself. But like more, I think I'm so unused to the idea of like when I'm talking to somebody or interviewing somebody that it isn't a two-way street. And I think what's been so cool about working the W is that so often it has been a two-way street for me. Like I think that you really get to know people on both ends, and I've loved that. Because to me, like, it's not that I want to be like buddy or friends with every player, but I want to create like real, genuine, like meaningful relationships with players, because I want to tell their stories. I want to get to know them and have them feel comfortable with me getting to be somebody who highlights some of the biggest moments of their life. And so it's cool to know that there's some stuff shared in that, and to hit on that too. Like, and this is not for the podcast, but I think this is just in my sports coverage in general. This is for a feature that's not out yet. It's going to be out probably end of February, just based on how content scheduling is going. But I went out to do an interview on a current college player who's going to end up being drafted. And it was dope, because this was the most work I've ever put into anything in my life. Like the most stuff I've ever had to plan out, the most travel I've ever had to do, the most comprehensive feature I've done. I've done a lot of features now, and I think this was like the first one I was like, all right, I have my process. I really want to expand on it and make this like the best thing I've ever written, or be as in depth as possible. And so I did like 12, 13 interviews for this. I have like 8 or 9 hours recorded footage. I was out there for a week, and it was dope because my last interview was with her parents, and I was talking to her parents, and I'm like logging off the Zoom call, and they're like, yeah, we just wanted to really thank you for doing this. She called us after we knew that you wanted to interview us. So we called her because we knew that you talked to her already. And we were like, is it going to be okay? This is just going to be some like hack journalist that we have to talk to for 15, 20 minutes. And they were like, but she like totally sung your praises. She was like, oh no, this is his first time out here. He was so dope. You have to hang out with him. And I was like, I am not a crier at all. It's close as I've been to crying since my grandfather died in like 2014. Because I don't know, like you put like that was like the culmination of like hundreds of hours of prep and travel and getting out there, and just knowing that somebody cared that you're doing is putting that effort into something was really cool. A super rewarding feeling. So I think those are my 2 favorite moments right now out of this last like couple months.
Yeah, to add on to that, we can move forward after this. The interview with Kelsey Mitchell, that was something that was really dope, because when I listened to it, and with her going into the way her family dynamic is, educators, right? And saying she wants to be an educator after tenure with basketball is pretty much up. That was something that stuck out to me. And you can tell how personable she was when talking to you. So that was pretty dope.
Yeah.
And I just think that with these players, you're absolutely right. They're very, with my experience with Asia Wilson and gold medal Leash, it was a day of like just euphoria for me, because for them, I have a degree of separation with Asia. Asia used to be tutored by my aunt when she was in high school. So that was something that was dope. And then Alicia Gray, just having her love for video games and us talking about Call of Duty and all of that, I was like, wow, the players of the W are just so dope. And for us to highlight that, that's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Alicia Gray is special, man. She's one of my favorite people I've ever talked to. Like, totally, I think unassuming would be the right word. Like she does not come across it. I think it's almost, I wouldn't say it's to her detriment, but it's tough because like she does not come across and talking to her as like somebody who views herself as a star at all. And she is a star. Like I'm still almost
Absolutely.
I'm still mad that she wasn't an all-star. She got my all-star vote. And I'm salty she wasn't one. But exactly, like she's so humble. And I think because I did a feature on her, that was like one of the first big features I did was I talked to Asia and Dawn Staley about Alicia, and like that, like just hearing other people and their perspectives on somebody who, especially like Alicia, who is more quiet, who is a little bit more soft spoken, and getting the full picture from people who know them best. That's the coolest stuff. Because like you mentioned, like it is a little bit humbling, especially with Asia too. Like I've talked to Asia probably more than anybody in the W, which is actually funny when you think about it. Arguably the best player in the league, and I think that's who I've had the most access to. And like you mentioned, like she's just really kind, incredibly willing to talk about anything. So yeah, it's a very cool environment.
Yeah, by the way, Asia and Alicia, they need their own comedy special because they are indeed hilarious.
Man. If they had a podcast together, that would be peak. I would be so into that.
For real.
Yeah, I tap into the T, Fee, and Lee show. I would. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving on. With the WNBA getting ready for year 27, like who are your favorite prospects coming into the draft? Was there anybody outside of the top 5? We know that Leah Boston's going to the Fever. We know that. There's a battle between, I would say, with the second pick between Diamond Miller and Haley Jones, which I actually wrote about in my newest blog, which we'll get into later. But who's outside of the top 5 is you got your eye on?
Yeah, that's a really great point, because I think I'm not sure that it's set in stone that Aaliyah goes 1. And that's not to say that Aaliyah shouldn't go 1, but
Thank you, Mark.
I'm really like, I love Aaliyah. I think she's the best prospect in this draft. I'm not trying to, so don't hold me there. I just, based on any comment Lynn Dunn has ever made, the way that she's done things, the way that she handled the draft last year, I just am not sure it's set in stone. Like, I think, especially with how Queen Egbo played this last year, I'm not saying that they should make every decision based on what the number 10 pick did, but Queen was good. I think she could legitimately be a starting 5 in this league. She showed the makings of that. She already showed a lot of great defensive stuff. She made strides offensively. I just am curious as to whether or not they're going to view that as reason to be willing to maybe go in a different direction. So that is something that I'm interested to see play out. Because again, I think Aaliyah should go number 1, but TBD on that. Overall, though, one person who I'm going to write about soon, I'm going to do a scouting report on, Celeste Taylor out of Duke, is somebody that I'm very in on as being I think somebody who should be a first-round pick, and somebody who I think can be a star in the W. But in terms of slotting in as a role player who just makes an impact on winning, I think she's got a real chance. Like, she's got size. She's massively improved as a shooter this year, which I think the team's comfortability with what her shooting numbers are this year compared to prior years is going to be important for how she gets treated as a prospect. But I think the shot looks clean. It looks a lot better. She's getting off with, she gets it up on volume too, which is extremely important. The free throw numbers are better. She's a good secondary playmaker. She can handle. And then the defense, I think she's just about the best wing defender in the class, which to me, especially when you're looking at how the game is changing a little bit more, playing more perimeter style, just wanting to have more versatile players who can play out on the perimeter, I think she's a really fantastic prospect that isn't getting enough love. And Duke, shout out to Duke. I think they're 14-1 right now. They have another big game coming up. Every big game for them moving forward is a big game. But yeah, I think she's somebody that I would love to see get some more buzz moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Celeste Taylor, if we just go quickly, you know me, DA. I got to be analytical right quick. And shout out to Cerebro Sports. I mean, with a defensive statistical impact of 93, as you mentioned, Mark, when we're talking about today's WNBA, we're talking about wing defenders, someone who needs to be out in the wing to cover certain players like an Enrique Ogumawale, like a Sabrina Ionescu, something like that. Teams are going to be looking for wing defenders, and I think Celeste Taylor is definitely one of those. And then on the offensive end, averaging 12.5 points per game for Duke, that's incredible.
All right, I go. My outside the top 5 is she goes to Ohio State, but she's injured. JC Sheldon. Her shooting ability is just phenomenal, and I just hope that she could get it together as far as with the injuries and stuff, because I think that she's gonna have a great pro career. And I love her shot mechanics, limited motion. You know how a lot of these shooters today, they get the ball, go down, come back up and shoot. She get it, and it's right there in the shooting pocket, and she's just ready to let it go. So that's somebody outside of the top 5 that I think that she gets some more love, even though we know her injury situation, but obviously there's a difference between college and pro, and I think that with the way professional basketball is so wide open now, and the W, I think that she's going to be a threat.
She guards too. Like she's a really good defender on and off the ball. Incredibly active hands. Like she's a little bit smaller, so I think that's gonna be a knock on her. But she has like point guard vision. Like she's a good passer. I wouldn't call her a great passer, but I think like most of her reads are best coming out of pick and roll and out of ball screens. But I think she's somebody who could really slide, especially depending on how the shot looks. Because I agree with you. I think the shot is good, but what I'm interested to see is, and something that I'm still formulating in my mind and working through, is how do shots translate to the W, especially for guards? Because like Jordan Canada was a 40% 3-point shooter at UCLA, I think almost her entire career, and just barely takes threes now. She struggles to get it off. I think part of it, she has a way slower release than JC, so that makes it different for sure. But like I view JC as, especially if she plays with a pretty good post player, like that's somebody who can play on and off the ball, can move without the ball. That's stuff that I find really valuable, especially in a more post-dominant league. So I love that shot. I'm hoping she just gets back soon, because this Ohio State team moves me, man. They are good. They're really damn good. And they're playing without their two of their best players. Madison Green's out, and JC hasn't played since I think the 5th game of the season. So it's been...
Yeah. All right, before we get out of here, we got to talk about the 2024 draft real quick. Barring anybody leaving early or staying for their COVID year in 2025, man, I think that the 2024 draft is going to be stacked. If I'm looking at it, I just name a couple players: Cameron Brink, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, Camila Cardoso, Haley Rand Lith, Diamond Johnson, Deja Kelly, Aaliyah Edwards. Like, this draft, man, 2024 looks like it's going to be crazy, because think about it. If you get a lottery pick, you won. You could either, in any other year, these players will go one in any draft. I feel like you're getting 4 number 1 picks, and then outside of the 4, 5 through 10. Maybe the entire first round is going to just be stacked with players that can contribute immediately. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I think even too, like Aaliyah Edwards has been awesome, and I think she'll end up being a first-round pick. It looks like that whole class is pretty nuts, and especially too, like you mentioned, like the guard talent, I think is what stands out. And it's not just like guards, but like real guards who can create their own shot, create for others. Because I think that's the next wave of guards that we're going to see, or the next wave of stuff we're going to see, is guards who can create from inside out or outside in too, especially when you're talking about a Caitlin Clark. That is incredibly exciting. Cameron Brink has been fantastic. She's really fun to watch. I think I'm still hoping that she continues to expand her 3-point volume and that aspect. Like, obviously she's trying to work on fouls still, but regardless, like, fantastic defensive prospect. Needs to just improve and get better, especially playing through physicality. Like, that class is exciting. And that, not even to get too far ahead of myself, like the 2025 class too, man, like you're talking like Olivia Miles, Sony Citron. There's so much that I am excited about. There's a really interesting thing to look at too, where you're getting like this next wave. And this is not at all to demean the current group. That's not in the slightest, but I think it's more like you have this group that there's so many players who have been big since they were in middle school. Like, we're really big with like YouTube and the TikTok wave. Like Haley Van Lith I don't know quite what to think about her as a pro prospect now. I haven't watched Louisville a ton this season just because I know they've struggled a bunch. I'm going to get more on them soon, but like, that's somebody who has been massive on pro radar and just world radar for a while. I think when you're talking about visibility along with talent, like, that's really exciting to see, just when you're talking about the visibility of the W continuing to increase and improve. So yeah, the next couple draft classes are really getting me excited, man, especially watching these games. I think I'm excited for this draft class for sure. But every time I watch, I just think, man, 2024 and 2025 is going to be pretty sick.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be real sick. And it was funny because me and k.dot was talking about it when Aaliyah Edwards, she had a good game. I forgot who it was against, but she had a really good game. And I'm like, k.dot, we did not see that against South Carolina. I think that's a fluke. We both agreed, right? Until we seen how she just progressed the entire season. Like, even her floor game is good. She got better at a skill that's hard to get better at, and that's pass. She really can see the floor way better now. Also, another thing we was wondering, Angel Reese with her numbers that she put up. Now, we know that she's good, but we wanted to know, was those numbers, like those inflated numbers, is it fool's gold? And obviously we seen that it's not. The other day she had 26 and 28. When she left the game, she had more rebounds than the team had points. I was like, Jesus Christ. I love rebound. I love playing in the post. That's my thing. So, like you said, like, these next couple of drafts is going to be amazing, especially with Olivia Miles. I am super high on Olivia Miles. I know basketball. I know when a player can play and if they can contribute to a professional game right now, where you can just tell by their fluidness. You can see a pro player that has it. Even if we talk about the men's side real quick, like with Ben Mathurin, I only needed 3 possessions of watching him play. Oh, he just moves too graceful, and that's how I see with Olivia Miles how she moves, how she commands the offense, and her size as a point guard too as well. I feel like she can definitely she can step in right now, and you can just hand her the keys as a starting point guard, and she'll just run with it.
Yeah. No, exactly, man. I think that's the big thing. Like the guards are the biggest difference, I think. Like not that again, like it's just a different kind of player because of what they've grown up and how they've seen the game and how things have evolved around them. Because like you go from having a lot more of like game managing point guards in the W, or less about game managing, but more just I think it's a lot more slower pace, slower tempo, different kinds of ways of playing. And now you're getting a lot more like when you're talking about Olivia, when you're talking about Caitlin, you're talking about these super high pace, super high tempo guards who are making quick reads, making quick decisions, and like that's I'm so interested just to see how the game continues to change over the next couple of years with that.
Yeah. And we don't even have to talk about Caitlin Clark. We already know, like, she's just on a different stratosphere as a player, man. Like, her numbers these 3 years has just been insane, man. I haven't really got to say much. But yeah, man, I know that you got things to do. You're a busy fella and stuff. We're going to let you go. Just shout out your socials real quick and just let everybody know how they can find you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. And I also say too, I appreciate how much you guys have supported me since I first got started. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter at MG_Schindler. As you guys mentioned off top, I just did a feature on ESPN's Andrea Carter yesterday, which was really fun to do. And I should have some fun stuff coming out soon. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, definitely. And so with that being said, Mark, thank you for coming on. And we'll see you soon, brother. Be safe out there in Ohio. If it's cold, bundle up and all that good stuff.
I will be.
All right, man. Peace out, brother.
See ya.
Yes, sir. That was Mark Schindler, k.dot, man. What's your thoughts, man? That show was pretty good, man.
Yeah, listen, Mark is an incredible person. He is an incredible journalist, writer, scout, everything under the sun, and everything that he's talked about so far. And from a basketball standpoint, knowledge is pristine. It's always good to have like-minded people on the show with us so we can talk basketball, so we can talk culture and everything. And that was pretty dope. I really appreciate him coming on and giving us the supreme knowledge. He hit the nail on the head for me with the Celeste Taylor pick, because that was someone low key that I was like literally getting ready to text you about the other day, because I hadn't been watching Duke that much. But like once ACC play has come into account, I'm starting to look at all of the teams. I mean, and we said that the ACC is probably one of the deepest conferences, that from a perspective of beating each other up. I don't know what they'll do in the tournament, but as far as each other, they're definitely going to be within competition. And Duke has definitely emerged as one of those teams. And Celeste Taylor has done a great job this year. That was a good pickup by Mark. But it was a great show, man. Great show.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're not done yet, k.dot, because we got to talk about some stuff real quick. Chatting on the Atlantic. What's good, man? Congratulations, man. You doing your thing with Nets Republic. We got to talk about Chatting on the Atlantic real quick. Then we'll talk about what I'm doing with blogging and stuff. Yeah, let's go real quick. Let's go. I know we got some time.
Yeah, Chatting on Atlantic, man. It was a concept that actually came about when we had a brief conversation. And I know that a lot of things that I like to do is more so on the storytelling side. So I wanted to create a series for Nets Republic that will do a number of things. It would be parallel to what Nets Republic is for, which is all Brooklyn basketball, including the New York Liberty, as well as Gotham FC, the soccer squad. And shout out to them for sure. I wanted to create something that will have the reader envision themselves on Atlantic Avenue. And if anyone knows where Atlantic Avenue is, that's exactly where Barclays Center is. And just something that will appease the audience. And the first piece that I did with Coach Kelly Dempsey of Making Waves in Women's Basketball, who is also the head clinician of the Long Island Nets, the G League affiliate of the Brooklyn Nets. She was gracious with her time. And the way that we were able to do it was, of course, just a quick, Zoom call, and taking that Zoom call and making it a visual walkthrough of Brooklyn. And I think the piece came out pretty dope. I'm excited for the future. We got some nice prospects to profile coming soon. And hopefully this will expand on something bigger. Chatting on Atlantic is something that's really dope that I was able to come up with. And I appreciate all of the support. I appreciate everybody who's been reading and who's been sharing this. It was dope. It was really dope.
Yeah, man, I'm proud of you, man, stepping out and doing your thing and stuff and showing the world like your talent and stuff, man. Listen, for those that don't know, k.dot is the reason for all of this. He's the reason why keeping it 9450 is this. He's the reason why I'm here doing it. We broached the idea years ago. We had a nice clubhouse room on it, which we'll have to talk about the beginning of our stuff, man, on a separate podcast one day and stuff. And so now I'm just like full-fledged. Now you see me blogging now. I'm dropping blog after blog. I decided to create a hoops and lifestyle and culture blog / it's going to be a podcast too, but the podcast is actually going to be private for paying subscribers. It's called The Artest Effect, and you can go on theartesteffect.substack.com, which I wish I would have made an overlay about it, but it's all good. I'll fix that in post. But yeah, but so far I've just been writing a lot of stuff that's on my mind, a lot of ideas that I had in my notes that I wanted to just bring to life form. And we got a lot of things that we're talking about, especially we're talking about the WNBA draft. I just dropped the blog this morning talking about Sabrina Ionescu and Stewie possibly teaming up, just as a fantasy dream, as a New Yorker, as a Liberty supporter as well. Stuff that I want to see going on in New York. I want to see one of the GOATs of basketball in New York City. And I would love to see how Sabrina Ionescu will work with that. And I think that it will work. So that's just another blog idea that
And to add on to that, I got to cut you off. I apologize. The title of the blog was just Chef's Kiss. Because again, this is one of those blogs, and it was a great read as well. It's one of those blogs where you don't just jump the gun, so it's more of a suggestion from, of course, just like DA said, a fellow New Yorker, someone who is entrenched in the culture of New York, and he wants to see a GOAT play in the city of big dreams, man, bright lights. And if you guys don't know, please make sure you check out the blog itself regarding the reference, because it's a nice New Jack Swing reference. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to read the blog. You're going to have to go on Twitter and see for yourself. But the play on words, that was a good one for that title.
Yeah, kid. Hey, listen, you know how we do, man. You know how we do. You got bars, I got bars and stuff. We put this stuff together. We a team and stuff. Even though it's called the Artest Effect, this is just as yours as mine. We split everything down the middle and stuff. Excuse me and stuff. But my favorite blog that I wrote was on Aaliyah Boston. It's coming from a perspective of a post player myself when I played in college, and getting a lot of attention and having to adjust through that and everything. Because remember, k.dot, we was thinking like Leah was struggling and stuff, like in our text messages or our phone conversations, we was just having a lot of questions. Why? We did see she always had her hand wrapped too, so we think that she was still ailing or whatever. But I think that mixture of the injury and also they're winning by a lot. She's not playing a lot of minutes, so her numbers is down and stuff. But it still doesn't matter about it, because regardless, her pro career, and when that draft comes, she's going to be the first name called and everything like that. But I thought that was a pretty cool blog. And also, I talked about Rudy Machida again. I feel like I introduced Rudy Machida to women's basketball world when I wrote about her in the Olympics and stuff. And just looking forward to see how it moves on and progress in her career. I think that she's going to play in the W. Again, I think that she's going to play for a long time because of her style of play. Also, her just being from Japan, which is a really big country, really famous and everything. Not famous, but got a lot of fans that love basketball. It's funny because that's my most viewed blog. And somebody that was Japanese actually retweeted it, and then it just went crazy. So I was like, yeah, that's the Ruby effect right there and stuff. But outside of that, I think that she's a really good player and stuff. Let's get on out of here and stuff, because we got a busy day today and stuff. So thank you for popping in, listening to Keeping It 9450. Thank you to Mark Schindler for tapping in with us. I'm Daniel Artest. You can follow me on Twitter at _Artest. You can follow k.dot on Twitter at k.dot38. Follow the show at the 9450 on Twitter as well. And with that being said, we're going to get on out of here. Love is love. Peace.
Peace out.